Imagine you just sit down, you pour yourself a cup of coffee, and you open a brand new book. Usually, I mean, you expect an invitation, right? Like an author welcoming you into their world, maybe offering to share a story or some hard-earned knowledge. It's, a transaction built on mutual respect. You give them your time, and they give you their ideas.
Right. Yeah. It's an unspoken social contract between a writer and a reader.
Exactly. But what if you open this book and immediately, like right off the bat, the author treats you like a subordinate, like the text is practically yelling at you.
Yeah.
Demands that you never, ever use it as a coaster, never dog-ear the pages, and it even expects you to put a special warning sticker on your front window.
Wait, a window sticker?
Yeah, a sticker so firefighters will know to rescue the book before they even think about rescuing your family.
Oh, wow. I mean, that completely upends the entire relationship. Before you've even read a single argument, you've basically been stripped of your agency. You aren't a reader anymore. You are, well, a follower.
And that exact dynamic is what we are looking at today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to unpack a highly specific, honestly, totally fascinating artifact of American political and social commentary. We are diving into excerpts from Stephen Colbert's 2007 satirical book, I Am America, and So Can You. Now, to be clear right up front, we aren't here to endorse any of the extreme or, deeply polarized traditionalist views presented in this text.
Oh, far from it, yeah. We have to be clear that we aren't taking sides here at all. We are treating this source material strictly as a laboratory, just reporting on what's there.
Exactly. Impartial observers. We just want to put this masterclass of political parody under a microscope to figure out exactly how he manages to stretch a really rigid worldview until it, well, completely snaps. We want to look at the mechanics of this specific brand of satire. And it's going to be a wild ride. We're going to explore alien economies, cow hoof pudding, and the terrifying idea that your own children are actually alien body snatchers just sent here to replace you.
Which is such a wild concept. But, what makes this text so rich for analysis is how it actually constructs its authority in the first place. Before we even get to the political arguments or the societal rules, we really have to look at the persona the author builds for himself. Because he doesn't start by laying out facts. He starts by declaring his utter disdain for the very medium he is using. Like, he hates books.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this is just such a bizarre way to start a book. He claims he didn't even quote unquote, write it. He dictated it by shouting into a tape recorder over Columbus Day weekend. I mean, why structure the origin story of the book that way?
Well, think about the archetype he is parodying here. He is channeling the bombastic, totally ego-driven cable news pundit by claiming he shouted the book into a tape recorder over a holiday historically associated with, like, conquest and discovery. He frames himself as a force of nature.
Oh, right. Like he's just this unstoppable force.
Exactly. His opinions are so massive and so urgent that they were going to waste, like, I think he says seed on barren ground when his television camera stopped rolling. Writing, in his view, is for intellectuals, which he views with heavy suspicion. Shouting is for leaders.
Yeah, he literally says he did absolutely no research because, and to quote, the only research I needed was a long, hard look in the mirror. It's wild. He's demanding total ideological submission from page 1. And he even goes after libraries, right? Like he has a profound disdain for anyone who doesn't physically purchase the book.
Oh, yeah. He explicitly states that people who borrow the book from a library are welfare queens and moochers. To him, true American heroes are the people who actually open their wallets and buy it.
It's a fascinating psychological trick, honestly.
Yeah.
He's taking the concept of a public good, a library, and applying this hyper-capitalist, pull yourself up by your bootstraps morality to it.
Yeah.
And the physical book itself has to be treated with what he calls the accepted minimum standard of respect.
Right, the minimum standard.
Yeah, and if you get a first edition, it apparently includes an official ribbon with a large script F on it.
And if your copy doesn't have that F, he basically claims you've bought a Chinese counterfeit and that the teenager behind the bookstore counter is a pirate and you need to immediately dial 911.
Which is just so unhinged.
Ah.
And it brings us back to that window sticker for the firefighters. He's treating the book not like a comedy piece, but like a sacred, counterfeit-proof religious relic, or like a constitution.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how this works on a mechanical level. By adopting the posture of a supreme authority figure who literally refuses to do research, the text perfectly mimics the ultimate echo chamber of modern media personalities.
Yeah.
The satire functions because it takes the underlying arrogance of the pundit format and just makes it entirely literal.
So he doesn't need facts to convince you.
Right, he just needs you to agree with his gut, and he establishes a set of physical rules to enforce that absolute loyalty.
So once he has bullied the reader into submission and established this absolute unquestionable authority, how does he apply it? Because it seems like this obsession with maintaining dominance would naturally extend into his personal life, right? How does this supreme dictator organize his actual home?
Well, he starts with the fundamental unit of society, which is the nuclear family. But he doesn't describe it as a sanctuary or anything nice. He explicitly calls it a battleground. He approaches the family as a rigid biological building block, and any deviation from his strict formula is just mathematically incorrect.
Wait, he actually uses math. How does he
Yeah.
mathematically quantify a human relationship without the whole argument just collapsing in on itself?
Oh, he completely relies on the illusion of absolute certainty. He provides literal math equations in the text, like man plus woman equals marriage.
And if you try to add an ATE to man to make manatee, and add that to woman, it equals failure. I remember that, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's totally absurd, but the underlying mechanism is super clear. The formula is utterly inflexible. There is no room for nuance or evolution or alternative structures. Which brings us to the specific roles within that rigid formula. The ideal father in this worldview is this distant authority figure who works like 100 hours a week.
Right. And crucially, he's a man who must never, under any circumstances, go to the doctor. Because showing physical weakness is completely forbidden.
Never.
And it gets darker, too. He has to sleep with a 9mm handgun loaded with hollow point bullets under his pillow, just ready to wake up firing at the slightest shadow in the house. Now, hold on. I really have to push back on the internal logic here.
Go for it.
If the ideal father is working 100 hours a week, is entirely emotionally unavailable, refuses medical care out of sheer pride, and is hiding lethal weapons under his pillow, isn't the author secretly pointing out that this traditional 1950s family structure is actually incredibly toxic and terrifying?
Yes. That is precisely the target of the joke. This raises a really important point about how satire functions through extreme literalism.
Let me pause you there. Extreme literalism. Meaning he takes a metaphor like a man's home is his castle or the family is a battleground and just completely removes the poetry. He literally treats the house like an actual combat zone with a loaded 9mm.
Yes, exactly that. He strips away all the fuzzy nostalgia usually associated with traditional family values. By taking real conservative talking points about strict gender roles and pushing them to their absolute logical extremes, the text reveals the underlying anxieties and, frankly, the impossibilities of those expectations. The ideal father presented here isn't some benevolent patriarch. He is a sleep-deprived, armed, emotionally repressed time bomb.
Which sounds exhausting for everyone involved. And the mother's role isn't really any better, is it? Her entire existence, according to the text, is supposed to be this constant vibrating state of guilt.
Oh, heavy guilt. The author claims that females, and he says this ranges from single-celled paramecia all the way up to humans, possess this maternal instinct that requires constant selfless nurturing.
Even paramecia.
Even paramecia. And anytime a mother spends alone, whether she is thinking, reading, or just sleeping, it means she is a fundamental failure as a biological organism.
The detail that really stuck with me was about housekeeping. He says that a messy house secretly signals to the kids, I'm not lovable.
It's just a massive psychological trap. Satire works best when it targets unspoken, very real anxieties. The crushing, silent guilt placed on traditional homemakers to be perfect is magnified here to a ridiculous degree. The expectations are purposely designed to be impossible to meet.
But the genius of the control tactic is how he presents the alternative. Like, if you don't conform to this impossible nuclear family, what happens to you? He gives us the diary of someone named Dolores Grierson, the old maid.
Dolores is the ultimate cautionary tale in this specific worldview.
Her diary is unbelievably bleak. She fills her days eating wheatna, constantly updating her will for her cats. Apparently, Professor Snugglepuss is in for a wonderful surprise and just silently plotting revenge on the neighborhood children from behind her drawn shutters.
Yeah, it basically forces a binary choice on the reader. You either conform to this incredibly restrictive, anxiety-inducing nuclear family, or you become a bitter recluse entirely disconnected from society. There's no middle ground, no healthy alternative. It's strictly conformity through fear.
So if the marriage is this rigid, heavily armed fortress, How does he handle the offspring? If the family is a battleground, the children must be the invading force, right? He must have a tactical manual for dealing with them.
He absolutely does. He views the product of this marriage as a direct existential threat. He openly states that he is fundamentally against children because their entire biological purpose is to replace us.
Yeah, he compares finding a child walking around in your shoes to finding an empty body snatcher pod in your basement. They aren't kids to him. They're the enemy, just waiting to take over the house.
Right. Which means his advice for child rearing isn't about raising a well-adjusted, happy person. The goal is to maintain total dominance and keep the enemy completely off balance. It's a literal psychological operations campaign.
So how does he suggest fighting back? Let's look at his methodology here. He suggests setting arbitrary rules that make absolutely no sense. For example, declaring that purple means Wednesday, or instituting a household law that Jell-O must never be jiggled. I mean, why would an authority figure want rules that blatantly defy logic?
Well, because if every rule made sense, the children would be learning logic. They would learn how to reason. And reason is the ultimate enemy of absolute authority. By enforcing arbitrary rules, you are teaching blind discipline. You are teaching them to obey simply because you said so.
Ah, I see. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author's child-rearing tips are actually a deeply satirical critique of authoritarian parenting as a whole. Demanding arbitrary obedience exposes the absurdity of demanding respect without offering any rational foundation for it.
Exactly. And the text even playfully warns that this exact brand of strictness is what birthed the rebellion of the 1960s. The persona is so blinded by his need for absolute control that he is actively creating the very rebellion he fears. You know, the tighter he grips, the more likely the kids are to become the exact counterculture he despises.
The psychological warfare just continues from there, too. He advises parents to always pick a favorite child, but to never actually tell them who it is, just to keep them in a constant state of anxious competition. And then there is the concept of unspilling milk.
Oh, unspilling milk. Right. Living your daft hopes and shattered dreams entirely through your children.
How does that even work mechanically in this worldview? Is he just telling parents to force their kids to play baseball if the parent failed at it?
It goes a bit deeper than that. The text argues that children are essentially just tiny blank slate versions of you, minus the crushing weight of your own life's failures. So rather than dealing with your own disappointment, you forcibly rewrite your history by making them achieve what you couldn't. It completely strips the child of their own identity. They are basically just a vessel for the parent's ego.
Wow. And this obsession with maintaining dominance doesn't stop when the kids grow up, does it? In fact, reading through these sources, it seems like the persona's greatest panic attacks happen when he realizes there is one demographic he absolutely cannot control, outwork, or intimidate, which is the elderly.
Yes. Having theoretically survived the alien body snatchers that are his children, the author turns his sights on the group that simply refuses to leave the stage.
The entire chapter on seniors opens with the word new WS in giant, visually massive text. Because, the persona claims, old people can't read small print. He says the rest of the book just looks like an ant fight to them.
Yeah, he views the very concept of retirement as an absolute betrayal. To him, stepping away from the workforce is literal desertion from the war of life, and he mocks the idea that you should be allowed to stop working just because, your prostate hurts.
And here's where it gets really interesting. He has a massive grievance with Social Security. But rather than just arguing about taxes or economics like a normal pundit, he tries to explain his hatred for the system using this bizarre sci-fi analogy. He invents the Glixnards and the Vorzovs.
Yeah, imagine an alien planet where young, hardworking aliens are legally forced to give up a large number of their precious Glixnards to a group of non-working elder Vorzovs.
Right. And these elder Vorzovs aren't working because they've ingested a sacred mineral that renders their forelimbs useless for mining.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so oddly specific. Why go through the trouble of inventing an alien race to explain a basic American pension system?
It's a brilliant rhetorical trick, actually. When you want to attack a deeply entrenched, highly popular social safety net, like taking care of the elderly, you have a human problem. People have grandparents. They naturally feel empathy. By making the system sound completely alien and ridiculous, the author perfectly captures the extreme libertarian frustration with taxation and entitlements while completely stripping away the empathy.
He alienates the reader from the familiar concept of pensions to make it look like a bizarre intergalactic scam.
Precisely. When you take away the human element, when you replace struggling seniors with Vorzooths, it is just much easier to attack the policy. It highlights how political rhetoric often tries to dehumanize a system to make defunding it more palatable to the public.
And he doesn't just want to take away their glixnards, he wants to put them back on the front lines. He solves two political problems at once, apparently. His solution to border security is to build a 2,000-mile-long front porch along the southern border.
Right, and man it entirely with angry territorial grandpas.
Yeah, he talks about remembering an old man from his youth who guarded his lawn like a hawk, screaming, "Off mine grass," at anyone who dared to step on it. So his grand solution is to line the border with millions of grandpas in rocking chairs, yelling at immigrants to get off the nation's lawn.
It perfectly skewers two major political hot-button issues simultaneously. It blends xenophobia and border panic with outright ageism.
It creates this absurd, deeply comedic image. But what is the real underlying point there?
It forces the reader to look at the raw anger driving these policies. By combining the territorial rage of a grumpy neighbor with national border policy, it basically laughs at how ridiculous that hostility looks when you strip away the polished political jargon. It reduces a massive geopolitical debate to a grumpy old man defending a patch of grass.
And if the elderly don't want to guard the border, he has a final solution to aging itself. He pivots to selling them something. His age-defying protein pudding, which is made entirely from cow hose, because supposedly a high gelatin diet keeps their joints supple.
Oh, it is the perfect grish to end on. The authoritative media figure who just spent an entire chapter insulting them is now suddenly selling them a miracle cure. It mirrors the exact structure of so much modern media. You incite panic, stoke anger, and then conveniently sell a supplement during the commercial break to cure the anxiety you just created.
Wow. So what does this all mean? If you're sitting there wondering why a satirical book from 2007 matters to your news feed today, it's because it teaches us how to read between the lines of modern media.
Exactly. Satire isn't just jokes, it's an analytical tool.
Right. Satire is like a stress test in engineering. He takes a standard conservative talking point like hard work builds character or traditional families are best and applies 1,000 tons of pressure to it. He scales it up to 100-hour work weeks, loaded 9mm under pillows, and alien body snatcher children until the logic fundamentally fractures. It shows us exactly where the structural weaknesses are in real-world arguments.
And by analyzing these exaggerated, absurd rules, we can clearly see the real-world anxieties about gender, aging, and societal control that are still dominating our cultural conversations today. The specific talking points might shift over the decades, obviously, but the underlying mechanisms of fear, authority, and control remain exactly the same.
Understanding how this specific persona was constructed helps us identify similar, entirely serious personas operating in our media ecosystems today. The ones who demand your absolute loyalty, refuse to show you their research, and tell you that everyone else from the local librarian to your own children is out to get you.
Yeah. Knowledge is most valuable when we can actually apply it to our current context. Once you see the blueprint of how this manipulation works, you really can't unsee it.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. The sources we explored today mock the societal panics of a very specific era, using the media formats of that time, cable news punditry, and physical hardcover books. But if this exact same deep dive into a truth manifesto were written today, in the age of TikTok influencers, artificial intelligence, and modern algorithmic culture wars, what bizarre extreme rules would a satirist invent for us to live by right now?
Oh, that's a great question. Would the accepted minimum standard of respect involve a mandatory daily live stream just to prove your loyalty to an influencer's brand?
Or would the ideal father be using AI algorithms to optimize his kids' childhoods, tracking their metrics instead of setting arbitrary rules? It really makes you wonder.
Yeah.
So the next time you pick up a book, turn on a podcast, or open an app, and someone immediately demands your unquestioning submission to their worldview, just make sure you check for the body snatcher pods in the basement.